Be'ezras Hashem, today's daf is Masechta Sanhedrin Daf Kuf. Um, it's number 100. Okay, so here we go. Hold on one second. I just wanted to call something up. I have it. Open with. Okay, here we go. So we are holding on Daf Tzadik Tesam and Beis, and we are going to begin from Omer Rabel Gazandri. It's about 5 lines from where the lines get wide on Daf Tzadik Tesam and Beis, and that's where we left off. Omer Rabel Gazandri. Rabel Gazandri said, Kol ha'oisek b'Torah lishma, someone who learns Torah for the sake of finding his name. In other words, he learns Torah. Let's call lishma means you're learning Torah for your finding your soul, your own name. Your own name is your neshama. Your neshama has the word shemen there. So he's learning Torah lishma. So that's the highest form of learning Torah. Mesav shalom b'pamalia shalmala, uva pamalia shalmata. On the what's going on upstairs between all the malachim, you're making peace with them. Somehow your learning affects the peace that goes on upstairs, and also uva pamalia shalmata. When there's peace on planet Earth, it's because of one person learning Torah lishma. Shenema or yachzik b'mu'uzi yasa shalom li shalom yasa li. Pasuk says, if you hold on to mu'uzi, my strength, which is the Torah, Hashem oiz la'amayitein, you're going to make 2 times shalom. Shalom in this world and shalom in the next world. Rav says, Ki'ilu bona palterin shalmala shalmata. It's as if you built the world. You built the palace upstairs and the palace downstairs. In other words, somehow it's as if you build our world and the heavens. Shnema v'osim dvarai beficha v'tzel yodi kisisicha. I put my words in your mouth, and you're with the shade of your hand you cover me to plant shemayim uliyased aretz, and to put a foundation for earth. And dvari bepicha means Torah. Rav Yochanan says, if you learn Torah lishma, af megin al kol oilam kuloi, you somehow bringing about a protection on the entire world. So a person could be sitting at home learning Torah really lishma, and the world is being protected because of him. Shnema, you're saving the world. With the shade of your hand, I have covered you, and that refers to the Dvar Beficha, which is the Torah. Levi Yama Af Makaraves Geula, you're bringing the Geula closer. Shnema v'leimer l'tzion ami ata. You tell Tzion ami ata that you're my nation. So again, that's the safe of that pasuk. So it's really a connection of learning Torah lishma, that you're also bringing the final redemption. Says the Gemara. Amar Rosh Lakish said, Kol hamalamin is ben chaverei Torah. If you're teaching your friend's friend, your son of your friend's Torah, let's say you have a friend, it's hard to learn with him because he's not interested in learning. So you take his son and you sit down and teach him Torah. So it's not that just you're doing a favor to somebody, but the Torah considers it as if kilaso, as if you made that person. Shnema, Pasuk says about Avram Avinu, he brought people closer to Torah, so to speak. He made people in Charan. So if you learn with somebody, it's as if you made him. It's as if you are bringing, as if you're making new the Torah. Because when you learn with something, you definitely think of something new to say. And therefore, it's as if you're creating the Torah. Rava says, it's as if you're creating yourself. Shenema doesn't say Vasisa Moisim, you'll make them, you'll make the Torah. Al Tikra Osam, don't read it. Osam, you're going to make the Torah. El Atem, you're creating yourself. You're making yourself. Omar Rabbo said, Kol Hama'asha as a Dvar Mitzvah. If you force your friend, you put pressure on your friend to do a mitzvah, Mala al Vakasal Kila Asa'ah. It's the Torah considers it as if you performed the mitzvah for yourself. If you put pressure on your friend, let's say to give charity or something like that, or to do a mitzvah, it's as if you did the mitzvah. Shenema, it says by Moshe Rabbeinu, he forced Aharon to perform some of the makas. Matcha ashehi kisa by seyar. It's called Moshe's stick. Says the Gemara, V'chi Moshe hiko. Moshe smote the Nile River. Aaron hiko. Aaron was the one that smote it. Ela teaches you because kol ma'ashas chavedel devar mitzvah. Moshe, so to speak, forced Aaron to do the bar mitzvah. The Torah considers it as if he did it himself. Then we learned in the Mishnah Apikoris. Apikoris is somebody that we said doesn't have a chelik olam haba, but that remains undefined. Now, Epicurean is the word Apikoris. It's somebody who enjoys the finer things in life. So therefore, the idea of an Epicurean. Hi, Steve. We just began not too long ago, so we're talking about Apikoris. The Mishnah said, okay, Apikoris does not have olam haba. Now, what is an Apikoris? So an Apikoris is typically defined as an Epicurean, somebody who says this. He just says the whole point of life is to pursue pleasure and avoid pain. That's the Epicurean. But in the Mishnah, it refers to something else, even more so. Rav, Rabbi Yochanan, and Chanina Amar Tavayu, it refers to, they both said, Zeh hamavaz l'Talmud Chacham. If someone shames the Talmud Chacham, then he loses his chelik in Olam Haba. Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Shua ben Levi Amrei, Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shua ben Levi says, Zeh hamavaz l'Chaveri b'fnei Talmud Chacham. If you shame your friend in front of a Talmud Chacham, when you shame your friend in front of the Talmud Chacham is cringing. So you're not shaming the Talmud Chacham, you're shaming somebody else, but you're causing the Talmud Chacham to cringe because you're shaming somebody else. So the Gemara says like this. Now the Mishnah also said, Hamagala ponim b'Torah. We learned in the Bryce, if you magala ponim b'Torah, which means that you act brazen to the Torah, you also are somebody that lost his chaylam haba. So how do you define both of them? So and magala ponim b'Torah is worse than an apikoris. So the Gemara says, Bishla lamandi amavazas chavev fnei Talmud Chacham apikoris hava. If you learn that if you shame your friend in front of a Talmud Chacham, you're an apikoris, mavazal Talmud Chacham atzmai, but if you shame the Talmud Chacham himself, that would be something worse than an apikoris. Magala ponim b'Torah shleika halacha hava. That's, you're trying to say the words of Talmud Chacham, of the words of the Torah, you're explaining that as not being according to the halacha. You say the Torah says you put the tefillin between your nose, and that's why you're interpreting it. That's megala ponim b'Torah. That's worse. That according to the opinion that an apikoris is somebody who embarrasses and shames a Talmud Chacham, megala ponim b'Torah kagaymai. Well, by shaming a Talmud Chacham, you mean you're shaming the whole Torah Shabbal Peh. So then, what does it mean? How are you misinterpret? What's that difference than somebody who misinterprets the Torah not the way the Chachamim learned it? I mean, Kagoymai, what would be that case? So Gala Bana B'Torah is Kagoy Menashe ben Chizkiya. That's like somebody Menashe ben Chizkiya who didn't misinterpret the Torah. He agreed with what the Torah, what Chachamim was saying. But he went one step further and said that Moshe Rabbeinu, who wrote the Torah, wrote a lot of extra things in the Torah, things that are unnecessary in the Torah. Like the Gemara brought psukim that if you don't, it seems redundant. It seems so superfluous that Moshe wrote in the Torah. So that's why that's called Megala Ponim b'Torah. If you do that, you lost the chelik in Olam Haba. Some say this machlokes regarding what is a Megala Ponim b'Torah. That's what we're talking about. Megala Ponim b'Torah. Rav Chanina Amar Zamavaz Talmud Chacham. That's shame of Talmud Chacham. Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Shua Levi Amar Zamavaz as Chavev Fnei Talmud Chacham. If you mavaza your friend in front of the Talmud Chacham, that's called Megala Ponim b'Torah. So the Gemara says, Bishlam Amavandi Amar Mavaza Talmud Chacham Atzmei Megala b'Torah Hava Mavaza Chavev Fnei Talmud Chacham Apikoris Hava. So then, if Megala Ponim b'Torah is shaming a Talmud Chacham, so what's little less than that is if you shame your friend in front of a Talmud Chacham, and that would be the apikoris, because apikoris is one less worse than Megala Ponim b'Torah. If you mavaza your friend in front of a Talmud Chacham, that's Megala Ponim b'Torah. So what's one step lighter than that? Apikoris kagoyman. What is considered an apikoris? I mean, what minor thing do you do that you considered an apikoris? Amar Rav Yosef, it's less brazen. It's less obvious. And apikoros is somebody who does something that's less obvious. Amar Rav Yosef could go in handling the Amra Ma'ahani Leilabanim. L'didu kari l'didu tari. A person says, just in conversation, what do we need all these people in Kollel for? Learning and reading Mishnayos. They don't add anything to the world, and they're not enjoying the world. That's Epicureanism. So therefore, that is called, it's a flippant remark, but nevertheless, if someone does that, he's apikoros and lost his chelik alam haba. Because we know Amalei Baya said Hamagala Podonamehu. He holds that's like saying something bad about the Torah. What Rabbi is saying that's not a off the cuff remark. That's like saying something straight out against the Torah. The Torah says, "I want you to learn day and night." The Torah says that I didn't create the world only because somebody's learning Torah. And from another pasuk that says that the whole reason why HaKadosh Baruch Hu was not going to overthrow Sodom is only because there were people tzaddikim who were protecting the city, had there been. So we see that it's so important to have somebody learning. So and therefore, if someone says that, he's really saying something that's straight out against what's written in the Torah. So what is somebody who's an apikoros? Again, apikoros is doing something that's not so obvious to you that he's doing something wrong. So here the Gemara says like this: Ella, going to he's sitting in front of his Rebbe, and he wants to bring up another statement that the Rebbe said. And he says, we said this over there. In other words, he included himself as the teacher. Didn't we say this in like yesterday's year? He did not say this is what Rebbe said. So by slighting in a very soft, in a slight way, the honor of his teacher, that's called an apikoros. Rava says it's kagoin hani debate maasi asa. I think it's like the people from this family, Binyamin the doctor. The Binyamin the doctor family felt that they were more scientific than the rest of the Jewish world, and therefore they sort of like held in light regard Talmid Chachamim. The Amre, they said, Ma'ahani la rabbanim. What do rabbis do? They only know how to read, and they don't know how to come up with novel ideas. Ma'olam, we never saw, we go to Amud Aleph, Loishar lan urva v'le asur man yaina. A raven is a treifa bird. So, and a dove is a kosher bird. Did they ever come up with an idea that you could eat a raven? And did they prohibit a dove? I mean, these are written in the Torah. So what does the rabbi do? If he has a question, he Googles the question and gets the answer. So what's the big deal to be a rabbi? To be a doctor is something that takes creativity. That's what these Binyamin, the family, used to say about rabbis. So it's a slight, degradation in the honor of Talmidei Chachamim. So Rava ki have a ma'aser treifas the Binyamin kamei. When the family of Binyamin would come and they bring their treifa birds, and it wasn't so clear. When he saw that it was permitted, he said to them, he said to them, really, this is like a raven that you're not allowed to eat it, but I'm going to find a way that you can eat it. If he thought that the bird that they brought before him, you're not supposed to eat it, he would say, really, it's like a dough that you could eat, but I'm going to say that you can't eat it. In other words, Rava had to show to them that it's not easy being a rabbi. Yeah, it's not everything, not every question is, black and white. You have to be knowledgeable and to be able to put things together. Rav Papa says, "Kegoin de Oma Hani Rabbanim." If you say these rabbis, you don't even say anything wrong with these rabbis. These rabbis say such and such. That's also a degradation of the honor of the rabbis, and therefore you're considered to be an apikoros. Rav Papa Ishtal of Amar, Rav Papa himself forgot one time, and he said, "Kegoin Hani Rabbanim." He used that phrase, "Oh, these rabbis." He said, and he sat and fasted to do tshuva on that remark that he said, these rabbis. Says the Gemara, Levi bar Shmuel Rav Huna bar Chia have a komasakni mitbechoy sifrei debate Rav Yehuda. Levi and Rav Huna were trying to get covers for, like you do for a Sefer Torah. They were trying to make covers for a Sefer Torah, which the Sefer Torah has to have a cover on it, right? When they came to the Megillas Esther in the shul, which according to some opinions and it says it really, according to some opinions, Esther was never supposed to be written down, Megillas Esther. So it really, according to some opinions, it didn't have a kedusha like a Sefer of Navi. Omri, they said, Ha Megillas Esther loiboya mitpachas. This type of Megillas Esther doesn't need a cover. We don't have to make a mantle for it. So they said, they said to that Rabbi Yehuda, like a question that they felt we don't need a cover for it. Like when they didn't ask the question, does it need a cover or doesn't need a cover? They seem to ask the question like they want the rabbi to agree with what they're saying, and that's not the nice way to answer. Ask a question. Amalu, so Rabbi Yehuda said to Levi and Rav Huna, that way that you phrase the question, it looks like it's like an apikoros way of asking the question. You ask a question, you should phrase it that you have two sides and you don't know which way to go. But don't say, "Oh, I can do this." No. Rav Nachman says an apikoros is zeh hakori rabbi b'shmoi. He calls his rabbi by his main name. Gechazu got punished because he called his rabbi by his name. Gechazi was the attendant for Elisha. He said Elisha. So he didn't say my master or anything. He called him by his first name. You call your rabbi by his first name, you lose your chelik and olam haba. You're not pikaris. Yasir Rav Yirmiyah Kamed Rav Zera. Now the Gemara says a story about, is this considered an apikoros? Somebody who agrees with his rabbi. Rav Yirmiyah was sitting in front of Rabbi Zera. The Yosef Kamar Rabbi Yirmiyah was saying, in the future world, from the Beis Hamikdash, there's going to be a spring, a river coming forth, and the water is going to flow down, let's say, Har Habayis. And on each side of Har Habayis is going to be beautiful trees that's going to give such delicious fruits every year, and you're going to be able to eat it, and the leaves of the tree are going to be like medicine. It's going to come out each year. Water is going to come out from the Beis Hamikdash. The fruits are going to be for food, and the trees are going to be for health reasons. So there was an old man in the crowd when Rabbi Yirmiyah said this, and he said, "Yasha, that makes perfect sense. You said a good pshat." Rabbi Yochanan said the same idea, that there's going to be a river coming from Beis Kachay Kadashim. Rabbi Yirmiyah says, this old man looks like he has an apikoros because he's agreeing with you, like as if he has to say, "Oh, you're right, Rabbi Yirmiyah," because Rabbi Yochanan says the same thing. Is that called an apikoros? So Rabbi Zera said, so Rabbi Zera answered, "Hi, you Messiah. He's just Messiah Lach. He's bringing a proof to you." So that's when somebody, a student, like says, "Oh, Rabbi, you're correct because so and so said the same thing." That's not considered a minor fault in the rabbi's honor. And therefore you're not an apikoros. If you heard what type of apikoros is, this is an apikoros. Kiha. Now the Gemara says a fairy tale of a story. Yosef Rabbi Yochanan v'Kadosh. Rabbi Yochanan was giving a speech, and he said, it's like it's hard to imagine, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to take, let's say, imagine a big diamond that's 30 by 30 amas. That's like 60 feet high. And in that, he's going to create an opening of 10 by 20. So you'll be able to walk through the diamonds. That's going to be the way to enter Yerushalayim. Shnema, the pasuk says, I'm going to put this precious stone, Katkoi, Shim Sasayach, as a window, Usharayach, and your doors lavdi ekdach, like from precious stones. So the Talmud started laughing at Rabbi Yochanan. Omar, he said, Hashta can be also that Sisla Meshkachina, Kulahai Meshkachina. You can't find a diamond as bigger than a small egg. That's the maximum diamond you'll be able to find, the Hope diamond. But to find a diamond that's as big as 30 amas by 30 amas. So the Gemara says, Liyamim hefligas vinasa b'yam. This student's ship, he was in business. His ship got lost at sea. And wherever he was, maybe he saw on an island somewhere out there in the Pacific. Chazin and Lamachar he saw heavenly angels. So this is not a simple student. He saw heavenly angels, the Kamanasre, that they were chiseling Avanim Taivis Margalis, precious stones and pearls. Amalahul Hani Laman, what are you doing? So the angels told him, also Kadosh Baruch Hu Midim Sharish Laim. We're carpenters, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to use these doors as the doors of the gates of Jerusalem. So Kihadar, when the student came back from the business trip, Ashkan Rabbi Yochanan the Asav Kadarsh, he's found Rabbi Yochanan giving a shir in his class. Amalei, he came in, Rabbi, you're good, you're a good teacher, and you're saying the right. Just like you said about the stones being the big diamond stone that's going to be the door of Yerushalayim, I saw them making it. I saw angels making it. Amalei, Rabbi Yochanan told them, Reika, you empty person. If you wouldn't have seen it, you wouldn't have believed me. You're making fun of me. Rabbi Yochanan gave him his eye, and he turned into a pile of bones. Fantastic story. So that is considered a apikoros. He doubted his rabbi for a moment, and he had to see it for himself. Meisvei. So the Gemara asks the question. The pasuk says, how can a door be 30 amas high? This Bryce is going to say that when we stand up in the future world, we're going to be a lot taller than that. I'm going to make you stand up tall. Every person is going to be at least 200 amas height. Like the two heights of Adam Arishan. Adam Arishan was 100. Rabbi Yehuda says Kufa Ama. You're going to be 100 amas tall. Keneged Hechel the Kasalov Shenema Ashen Benenu Kenetiem Migudolam Ben Reim Ben Hussein Kazev B'Chudavis Tav Sehechel. So you have to look in Rashi what the cheshbon is. But the point is that we're going to be very tall human beings. So we're going to be, let's say we're at the minimum of 100 amas. How we're going to get through a door that's only 30 amas tall? And says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan, Kikama Rabbi Yochanan, Lechabe Beit Zika. That Rabbi Yochanan says didn't mean that diamond is going to be the door entranceway like Shari Shechem, that you enter the walls of Yerushalayim. It's going to be just a window in the walls, but the door is going to be much taller than that to allow human beings who are going to be 100 amas tall to go through. What is this? We said that there's going to be trees growing, these special trees growing right next to the Beis Hamikdash, that the leaves are going to be medicine. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdin min Rabbi Chizda Chada Amar Lahata Per Shel Mala. Rabbi Chada Amar Lahata Per Shemata. That means that will untie the mouth of above. The Chada Amar Lahata Per Shel Mata. I'm not sure. Right. So what does that mean? Oh, so the upper mouth and the lower mouth. What does that mean? So it explains like this. Sometimes a person can't talk. That's his upper mouth. Sometimes a person, a lady, a woman can't give birth. That's the lower mouth. So these medicines will be good for such people. To allow mute people to speak and will allow to people who couldn't give birth. Rabbi Yochanan, the truth of mamish, it gives you healing for the entire body. Any sickness you had, you'd eat those leaves and you get healed. My litrufa, for a trufa. Why didn't it say refuah? Shmuel Banachemi Omar, trufa means also shine. The Torah upon him shall bali peh. For someone who learns Torah with his mouth, so usually some person, he never goes outside the base medrash, so he's always like he doesn't have a shine because he doesn't have a good complexion because he's always indoors and learning with his mouth. So in the future world, that person is going to have a special shine. A shine from, from eating these leaves. Darash Rabbi Yehuda bar Rab Simon. Rabbi Yehuda bar Rab Simon made a speech, and he said, "Kol mashche al ponav al divrei Torah b'olam hazeh." Someone who works hard on Divrei Torah in this world, that he darkens his face, so to speak. HaKadosh Baruch Hu HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to make his face shine in the future world. Shnema Marei Kolvarim Bacha Ka'arazim. Omer Rav Tamchem Baruch Hanir Eloi. Kol Hamarav Atzma Divrei Torah Ba'olam Zeh. He causes himself to be hungry because he's learning Torah. In other words, it interferes, impedes with him making a living. HaKadosh Baruch Hu must be Elohim Haba. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to satiate him in the future world. Shenama Irving Midesha Misechel V'Nachal Adenecha Shaskei. Ki also Rav Dimi Amar, when Rav Dimi came to Bavel, he said, Asir HaKadosh Baruch Hu litin l'chol tzaddik et tzaddik m'loi umsai. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to reward every tzaddik a fistful of bracha, of good things. Shenema Baruch Hashem yon yon yamos lanu kel yishor sein sela. Yamos means like a fistful. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to give you in the future world. How's that possible? The entire universe is the size from the God's thumb to his pinky, a small little space. That's the entire universe. So if God, so to speak, has to give you a fistful, how are you going to be able to enjoy it? But like just with his pinky, he set up the outer space. So Rab Dimi answered Abaya, why didn't you learn Agada Gemaras? You always have a basic question. Every tzaddik is going to have 310 universes. Everybody's going to get the gematria of Yesh, which is 310 universes. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu will figure it out how to give such toiv. And he'll allow the person to grow and be able to accept the good. Tanya, we learned to the Brisa. Another 5 more minutes and then we'll stop. Tanya, we learned to the Brisa. Remeir Oimam. The way you measure, that's how they're going to measure you in the next world. So Amr Shuban Levi means exactly what you do in this world. Hashem is going to give you in the next world. How's that possible? If you give a fistful of food to a poor person in this world, so what's your reward? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to give you a fistful in the next world. The whole universe is one pinky of Eibishter. If he's going to give you a fistful, where are you going to put it? So the Gemara says, "Va'ati I came." So Meir said to Rabbi Shu, "You don't agree with me?" Ezu mi de beruba. Basically, Rabbi is going to say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to make you be able to, make you be able to receive it. He can do anything. Ezu mi beruba. Mi de taiva beruba. Mi de problem. Which does HaKadosh Baruch Hu pay more? When he does good or when he does bad? We go to Amid Beis. Have Amid Mida Taiva. Ruba Mamidas Piranias. Mida Taiva, the Eibishter does good more than when he pays you back for bad. The Mida Taiva Ksiv, Itzav Shchach Mimal, Vadalsei Shemaim, Pasach, V'yamta Leim in Mon Lechel. God opened up 2 doors and gave them food. Man. Over Mida Piranias Uksiv, but when it comes to doing bad, the Pasuk says, Varuba Shemaim to Tachov. 2 glass windows of the Eibishter opened up. The Midas Taiva, so we see God. A glass window is like usually on a door. There's 4 windows to a door. So the Mida Taiva, if God opened up 2 doors, it must have had 8 windows. So it's 4 times as much. The Mida Puranis Ksiv Yatzaro Pigra Nasham Paishabik Safin Lysam Isham Lysikba Hoya Deiran Lechol Basa. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to make you go into fire, and you will not get burnt. It's just going to continue to burn you. So this is the point. How's that possible? You go into fire if you do bad things. If you're in a Poisha Yisrael, you'll stick your finger into fire. If a person would stick his finger into fire in this world, miyad dichva, he gets burnt. So how is the Abish going to throw anybody into Gehenna? He'll be burnt in a second. This is the point. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give the power for Rishoyim to accept their punishment. So also, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to give a Jew a fistful of good because he gave a fistful to an ani, in this world, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give the koyach for tzaddikim to accept their reward. So don't worry about it, how it's all going to work out. It's all going to work out. One more piece of the Gemara and then we'll stop. Another 2 more minutes. If you read bad books, you lost your chelik on ha'olam. So what are called Sefarim HaChitzonim? Outside books, Tana, Besifrei Minim. This refers to Christian books that mistranslated the Torah. So that's simple. And Rav Yosef said, B'Sefer Ben Sira. It's the Ben Sira book. The Ben Sira was like a Greek philosopher that lived, I think, in the 200 BC, and he wrote a book that's like a Musar book, which has like the Marcus Aurelius book, Meditations, and it has a lot of good witticism in there that you can learn from. It's an inspirational book. So Rabbi Yosef said, if you read that book, you lose your chelik ha'olam haba. It's usher to read it. Why is it usher to read it? Amalei Abaya, my Tama, what's wrong with that book? If I read it, let's say an example. It says, the book says, don't skin a fish and throw out from its ear and throw out its skin. Don't waste the skin of a fish. Roast the fish whole with its skin in fire. And use it and eat it on a piece of bread, on 2 pieces of bread. In other words, don't waste anything. And people think, the skin of a fish, what it is, I'll peel it off. I just want to eat the meat of the fish. No, eat the skin of the fish. So basically, the Ben Sira is saying in this parable, don't waste anything. So, if you read it directly by Rice and Amiksib, that's what the Torah says. The Torah says, Bal Tashchis, don't waste anything. Midrasha, or you could say the Torah, if it's like a mashal for something, he's teaching you a moral way to do things. A person shouldn't do bia through the back end, and therefore causing his seed to go to the ground to waste. Don't waste your seed, basically, he's saying. So that's a nice thing to read in the book. In other words, what the Gemara is trying to find, what did Ben Sira do wrong and in his book that you shouldn't be reading it? Because it says in that book, don't have daughters. If a father has a daughter, that's a wasted treasure. A person has a daughter, he never sleeps well at night. Why? When the daughter's young, he's afraid that somebody's going to seduce her for sex. Benarusa shamatizna. When she's already an adult, she's a teenager, she may do adultery by herself. Bagra, if she gets older, you're always nervous. Maybe she shouldn't get married. She won't get married. Nieces, if she gets married, maybe your daughter's not going to have children. Iskina, when your daughter gets older, maybe she's going to go crazy. So you're always nervous about having daughters. So that's what Ben Sira wrote, and the Gemara says maybe that's not a Torah value. Says the Gemara, the rabbi said the same thing. A person needs male and female to accomplish the mitzvah of puravu, but it's better to have more boys than girls. So if that was written in the Ben Sira book, there's no reason to consider it a bad book. So another a minute and a half. The book says, don't bring worry into your heart because strong people were killed by worry. So that's a bad thing to say. Shlomo HaMelech said the same thing idea. If you're worried about something, yaschena. Do this yaschena trick. Try to remove it from your thoughts. Talk it over with a therapist. So David HaMelech also spoke that worry is a terrible thing to harbor inside. So what's wrong with that? Ve'ela, are you worried about this thing that was written in the Ben Sira book? People don't invite so many people into your house, because don't bring everybody into your house. It's not a good idea to make your house like a Rishus Rabbin. Says the Gemara, Rebbe Nami Amra. Rebbe said the same idea. Rabbi Aimet, Loilam Yaba Odom Reyam B'Sech. Certain people, don't bring too many friends into your house and party with them. Shnema Yisreim Lisre'eh. Eventually, all your friends, over time, you each have a different life path, and therefore you separate, or sometimes you get betrayed by a friend. So it's best not to start off and bringing a lot of friends into your house. So Ben Sira's ideas are written either in the Torah, in the Nach, or it's written in the Gemara. Ella, the Gemara finds one thing wrong with Ben Sira, and for that, the Gemara says, these things, there's some things that are nonsense in there, and don't read Ben Sira. And this is what it says, and that's what we'll stop over here. The Gemara says, the Mishum Diksiv, the Pasuk in Ben Sira, it's written, Zalk Dekon, if a person has a thin beard, Kurtaman, he's smart. Avdekon, if you have a thick beard, Sachsakon, you're a fool. Dinfach Bekase, Loitzochi, if a guy blows on his cup, to get away the sediment from the wine, he may not thirst. You're probably not thirsty, because if he was really thirsty, he would drink right away. If he says, a guy, you bring him a piece of bread, and he starts says, how can I eat this bread? I need something to smear something on it. Take the bread from him, because he definitely is not hungry. And then it says, if you have a cleft in your beard, in other words, you have your beard, but coming out from two sides of your chin, but there's in between a space. So that's a devious sign, because you're pinching your beard always. And it's a sign that you're a devious person. Nobody likes that person. So those types of things are nice to know, but they're nonsense. So if you take them seriously. So the Gemara does not want you to read the Ben Sira books. And according to some, if you read the Ben Sira books, you become somebody who loses his chelek hamaylam haba. Okay, we'll stop over here and we'll continue Metzah Shem next week Sunday. Have a good Shabbat.